Alright, so welcome to the second storyboard presentation. You ready? Let's just jump into this, guys. Alright, so first off we have the Steel Tycoons. Here on the left we have your boy JP Morgan. I don't know if you've heard of him. Just there's like a small bank named after him, which like merged with this other bank named Chase a while ago. Anyway, so JP Morgan is he's this really prominent banker and insurance kind of guy. Like, and we're talking about like stupid rich. Like the guy has so much cash. Like look at this dress. Look at that top hat. Look at that beard. Right, that's some quality stuff right there. That's some high up stuff. And then on the middle we have the Sultan of Steel, Andrew Carnegie. And Andrew Carnegie, he used what was known as vertical integration. So every single step of his industry, basically, like he controlled everything. He controlled from like the mining to the shipping to like the industry in the making to like the shipping again to like he controlled you name any part of the step, Carnegie probably controlled it. So why do I call them steel tycoons when this guy is obviously a banker? The reason for this is because Carnegie, he puts his hat into the ring, no pun intended, when he also kind of like he's like this entrepreneur sort of guy, so he's kind of like everywhere. So he kind of goes into the steel industry, and Carnegie, he's not really having any of that. He's kind of like, I mean, what he does, he basically he like okay, so Morgan goes like he ventured into the business of like steel pipes, and he like goes like face to face with Carnegie, and Carnegie threatens to like ruin Morgan's steel pipe industry unless he's given like some money. This money, eventually, Morgan succumbs to this. He gives $400 million in exchange for Carnegie's steel holdings, and Carnegie, through his gospel of wealth, he gives over $350 million of his money to the public and charity and stuff. And next we have the oil industry emergence. So the first sort of emergence, the first sort of like good product for like the oil industry was kerosene. And kerosene, it basically replaced it replaced whale oil and it helped to like light lamps and whatever. Sorry, not whatever, and such. And however, despite kerosene's success and its success for the oil industry, Thomas Edison's light bulb helped to basically it made it as obsolete as the kerosene had made the whale oil obsolete. However, don't fret, oil's not gone because you still hear of it today. And the main reason for this is because of the advent of gasoline. And gasoline proves to be this huge deal because it later helps to power automobiles. Now, I mean, you can't talk about oil without talking about your boy John D. Rockefeller, the richest American in existence if you inflate his net worth for today. He's the richest, absolute, like crazy. Like, what's his name? Jeff Bezos? Nah, you ain't got anything on this guy. So Rockefeller, um, he controlled 95% of the U.S.'s oil through his company, Standard Oil Company, and it got like extremely ridiculous to the point where like this political cartoon by Horace Taylor titled "What a Funny Little Government" shows Rockefeller looking at like the government, like Congress, just kind of looking at them like like what am I supposed to do with these guys? Like these guys are useless. This is pretty like it's obviously not a very flattering thing, but I mean I guess in a sense it is. It it comes like with like the advent of not the advent, the rise of plutocracy, which I'm going to discuss right here. So plutocracy, what is plutocracy? Plutocracy is think slavocracy, but instead it's like industries kind of controlling the government this time. And this is very prominent throughout the Gilded Age. Like you see a bunch of political corruption, which again will be shown later. And these industrial tycoons had an idea, had like they were all social Darwinists, which meant that like they had like some sort of idea of like survival of the fittest, the best of the best, the cream of the crop, go to the top, while everyone else, these are like the immigrants and then like middle class and such, they're all kind of like on the bottom. Now, obviously, people aren't very too like a lot of people aren't happy about this. Again, you see like these corporations are like literally just controlling the Senate and everything. So, people try to like manage them. So they try to get the government involved, and the government doesn't want to because of like they don't like they have like philosophy where they don't want to get involved. there's like so much pressure that they kind of have to get involved in some point. So first, tried to um, people tried to control them through state legislatures, but corporations argued that they were also people through the 14th Amendment, which is what this cartoon kind of like illustrates. So the federal government stepped in. They're like, all right, guys, you guys are going a bit too overboard. Like, that ain't cool. So they come up with the Anti-Sherman Trust Act. And the Anti-Sherman Trust Act forbade business practices that were deemed as monopolies, which, that's the definition of a trust right there. It was largely ineffective due to the many legal loopholes, but it would set a precedent for other anti-monopolistic laws during the Progressive Era under Teddy Roosevelt. Now, the Southern industry in the Gilded Age, yeah, no, what a joke, what a joke. It's bad. It's not very good. In fact, in 1900, the industry output of the South is worse than it is. It, it's worse than it was before the Civil War. It's like if you can understand what I mean. It's like you kind of like you can kind of see it in this picture, just like how absolutely like obliterated and just like how underdeveloped the South is. So the economy and like plantations kind of turn into this sort of system of sharecropping and tenant farming, where basically on like on a farm like plantation owner in a sense, they rent land, they give you land to work on, and in exchange you have to give like a certain amount of crops back to them. But the system was rigged in a sort of way so that you'd constantly be in debt and you'd like constantly be in this sort of like perpetual sort of servitude. So it was basically slavery 2.0, like slavery 2, electric boogaloo. It wasn't good. And then southern agriculture also increased due to due to like advancements in tobacco. So this is because of the invention of machine-made cigarettes. And James Buchanan Duke, who, if you recognize that last name, it's because he's basically he donated a lot of money to Duke University. That's where the name comes from. He came up with the American Tobacco Company, which that it also became a tobacco trust, and it also helped with southern agriculture because he's pumping out all this tobacco and it's helping the South a lot. Now, if we continue with industry in the South, people were pushing for industry in the South because they needed something. They needed some sort of stimulus. And this was like the Southern Railroads, if you recall, during the Civil War. Southern, like the Confederates, they literally basically just took like the railroads and they kind of just harvested them, or not really harvest them, but like they reused them for like um, their weapons and like buildings and such. So they're just kind of like all ruined. And this kind of changes with the north coming down to the south with cotton textile mills. And cotton textile mills are basically they're really the first source of like true industry for the South because these are like the first sources of jobs that these Southerners get. However, they come at an expense, a huge expense. They're extremely low wages for the Southerners. Like they're extremely low, and these northern factory owners kind of treat these Southerners like sharecroppers, where like they're kind of constantly in like a perpetual sort of cycle of debt. And this obviously isn't the best. This is a bad system, but it is better than what most other Southerners are experiencing at the time, because this cotton textile mill helps to give like a steady sort of like income for them. And this is sort of like this is it's like a sort of progression to more industry to come in the South later. And that concludes this video. Thank you for watching.